friends, I'm Sarah. Welcome back to my channel, Sunset Bow Tarot. So today I'm going to be doing an unboxing of a deck that I am super excited about. So this is the Forest of Enchantment Tarot, and I had had my eye on this since I saw it go up for pre-order, but I've seen images of the cards recently that have made me super excited about this deck. And the reason is I don't really have any sort of fairy tale inspired decks. You know, there are some pretty well-known and very beloved fairy tale decks that include, you know, the Baba Studios Fairytale Tarot. There's also the Fairytale Tarot by Lisa Hunt, which is also very in demand. It's an out-of-print deck. I've always been left slightly cold by those. As between the two, I've always been more interested in the Baba Studios deck, but neither of them seemed like they really hit all the marks for me necessarily in terms of what I would personally want in a fairy tale deck. And based on what I've seen of this one so far, how it sort of plays on the themes of fairy tales while not necessarily having every card reference a specific fairy tale, I'm really excited about this one. So this actually hasn't been released yet on, you know, retailers like Amazon. I don't think it comes out until week after next, but I ordered mine directly from Llewellyn, and the Llewellyn warehouse is here in the Twin Cities. Llewellyn is located here in the Twin Cities where I am, so it actually got to me very quickly. And so I'm so excited to have received it, and let's open it up and take a look. Okay, so this comes in your normal Llewellyn box that they're using recently, which are really nice boxes if you don't mind having a large box. And, you know, it's the kind with a magnetic flap on the side, and explains on the back here sort of, you know, what the ethos of the deck is. But when you open it up, like, again, most Llewellyn decks these days, there's a very nice guidebook, Your Path Through the Enchanted Forest by Lunia Weatherstone. And it's a beautiful book. All of the pages are glossy printed. All of the text has this beautiful border around it, and the images are gorgeous. Again, full color of all of the images. I mean, it's really a stunningly beautiful book, and it organizes everything according to the number, which is kind of nice because it gives the book an opportunity, it looks like, to really talk a little bit about the numerology that goes along with these, rather than just sort of, you know, sticking with just the plain old Rider-Waite-Smith meaning or having all of the cards based on the Rider-Waite-Smith meaning. It gives you a little explanation of what that particular number is supposed to be giving you. So, beautiful book, really exciting. And then they do have different names for the court cards. We have the Child, we have the Seeker, which is the Knight, and we have the Weaver, which is the Queen, and we have the Keeper, which is the King. And then there's a bunch of spreads at the back as well, lots of different spreads, and then, you know, various note pages, which I never use these note pages. They're all labeled Tarot Journal in this book, and they're actually really beautiful, just like really gorgeously illustrated. This deck is so pretty. I'm so excited about it. So lovely book. And so let's take the cards out, and look how pretty this is. The box has this swan image in the bottom of the box, and it's the insert that holds the deck, and the deck itself is shrink wrapped, so we'll go ahead and open that up. So the cards are normal Llewellyn size, and it seems like they have changed their cardstock again now back. So the decks that you would have bought from Llewellyn, like, 3 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, had this kind of cardstock, which is it is very thin, but it's a nice shuffle. It's slightly glossy. It's not super glossy. It has sort of a satin finish. So I prefer this Llewellyn cardstock to what they were doing for like the past year or so, where their cardstock was very, very sort of thick. It was thicker, but was still very floppy, and it felt a lot more heavily laminated. I think that cardstock might be more durable, but it always felt like the lamination was going to peel, and it didn't have as nice of a shuffle as this cardstock. And I know, opinions differ on Llewellyn cardstock, but as between the heavily laminated stuff of the past year or so and this stuff, which is thinner and not as glossy and, doesn't have that same feeling like the cards are about to peel, I prefer this myself. So anyway, the backs of the cards are also really beautiful. They have this lovely owl pattern on, and they are reversible, so I really like that. So again, this deck has a fairy tale theme, but it doesn't necessarily call back, from what I understand, to a specific fairy tale on every card. It more represents sort of fairy tale archetypes, and I love this idea of the white heart being the fool, because this is, classic in fairy tale and in legend, and even in Arthurian legend, that the white heart, when you see a white deer, if you catch the white deer, it's supposed to, give you your heart's desire. And so the idea here that the white deer would be the thing that leads you into the wood is a really, really great representation of the fool, and I really like that as a choice. So I'm just going to flip through these cards and let's take a look at all of them. I think that the layout of the cards is really nice. They're borderless, and they just have a nice unobtrusive little label down at the bottom here, which is pretty in this gold color. And I love the detail in this artwork. This enchanter's room is just so beautiful. So we have the enchanter as the magician here, and lots of representations, I think, of also different elemental symbols. We have everything from flame of a candle, we have bottles that might contain some kind of liquid, we have bird feathers maybe representing air, and it's a really, really beautiful image. And I love this high priestess as the wise woman. I just think that's so lovely. She's clearly, doing casting here. And I love that they represent her as older. I'm in love with this imagery. The Green Mother for the Empress. Beautiful. And I like that there's a child. I love all of the animals sort of gathering around. And here's the Forest Lord as the Emperor. This Hierophant is awesome. The oldest one. I love this illustration of the tree. Here's the Lovers. And they both have bows and quivers of arrows, which is cool. It's almost kind of like Robin Hood and Maid Marian. It's awesome. Here we have the Fairy Wind as the Chariot, which I really, really like that as the Chariot. This Strength card, so beautiful. Again, I love that it shows an older woman. I love that it's a wolf. This card is so gorgeous. The Hermit, look at how wonderful this is. This badger with his cozy cave, and I just love this. Like, this is the fairy tale inspired deck that I feel like I've always wanted. The Enchanter's Wheel, this is so beautiful, and there's magpies, and just wonderful. The Huntsman is Justice, and that's a really cool take on justice. And especially when you think about like the role of the huntsman in Snow White and stuff like that. The huntsman is somebody who kills, but he's also the character that shows benevolence in certain fairy tales. And so I feel like that's a really good and interesting symbol for justice. The Hanged Man is suspension, and it's a person trapped in amber. The Black Shuck is death. It's like the Grimm in Harry Potter. Awesome. The Forge is temperance, and I really like that as an image of temperance. I mean, they're literally tempering here. You know, there is a meeting, you know, when you temper metal, there is a meeting of fire and water. You know, the heat of the hot metal is quenched by the water, and that's how it's tempered. And so this is such an awesome depiction of temperance. It's not one that's similar to anything I've ever seen before, but it really is a great take on both the word temperance and the you know, kind of concept behind the card. So I absolutely love that. The Liar as the devil, and this is really cool. It's sort of this you know, Robin Goodfellow kind of you know, fey creature that isn't to be trusted. The Folly is the Tower. This is wonderful. I love it. These beautiful elves looking at starlight. This has a very sort of Lord of the Rings kind of sense to it. We've got moonlight here, moon-gazing hares. So beautiful. Sunlight. We've got, you know, Pan here playing his pipes and the beautiful sun peeking through the trees. The Council of Animals as judgment. I love this. Like, that's just such a cool idea for a judgment card, is that, you know, you are sitting in judgment by the forest itself. It's like the forest is kind of personified. And then the Wide World. So, you know, when you get to the other side of the forest, you've been chasing the white hart all the way through the forest, and now you get to the point where you're, you know, seeing the rest of the world that's out in front of you. So the way that the majors in this deck really do sort of contemplate the Fool's journey as an actual journey, I think is really wonderful. So here we've got the Ace of Spells, and yeah, it looks like everything's in order according to the way it is in the book. So the Ace of Spells, spells are wands in this deck, so that's our fire element, and we've got this beautiful little dragon here illuminating a wand as our Ace of Spells. Visions are water, and so again here we have this beautiful swan seeing a vision of itself as, you know, a queen or a, you know, some kind of royalty, and that's beautiful. We have the Ace of Challenges here, and it shows a white raven with the arrow, which is, again, I mean, I know that this is definitely a symbol in certain legends, and yeah, that's our sword suit. And then we have the Ace of Boons, and boons are pentacles, so this is our earth suit. And we've got this wonderful toad here with a magic ring. It's so awesome. And so here's our Two of Spells. And again, like this, it looks like a person casting. I mean, these look like oghams on, you know, pretty something similar. So again, it's somebody who is clearly looking into the future in this Two of Spells. And then this Two of Visions. This is so beautiful for a Two of Cups. It looks like Snow White and Rose Red, you know, two sisters who are different, but they love each other and they exist in balance, and I love that. And the Two of Challenges here, we have a magic mirror. So again, you know, it's about decision making. It's about feeling paralyzed and sort of not knowing, you know, what you need to do in order to move forward. And then the Two of Boons. Then this is great. There's a troll hiding under the bridge, and as the person goes over, balancing his load there, he's about to be challenged. So here's our Three of Spells, and this is, I just think this is so beautiful. These three shells with candles being sent out. You know, again, it's that energy that gets sent out into the world with the Three of Wands. And here's the Three of Visions, three dancing bears who look like they're having an absolutely wonderful time. Three of Challenges. So this looks like the father of Hansel and Gretel leaving them behind. So again, that's a, that's a great sort of take on the Three of Swords. When you think about, in this case, he's made a decision that he thought was a logical decision, and the difficulty of that decision is, and the sort of wrongness of it, even though it seems like it should be right. And the fact that there's three figures here and it is a three, like everything about that is really great. And here's the Three of Boons. And look how beautiful that is. This witch creating a potion. She's got assistance from her raven familiar. She's got assistance from an elf here, and creating something together, which is again our Three of Pentacles. So here's the Four of Spells, and it's so beautiful. This deck is really magical. I just love this. I'm loving it. The Four of Visions. So beautiful. Four of Challenges. So here's our Four of Swords, and this looks like, it's winter in the forest, but there's this place where, it's still spring, and, it's a place where you can go and rest and be away from all of the hardships around you, and so that's a nice Four of Swords. And here's the Four of Boons. It looks like some kind of goblin market. This reminds me of a book I read recently that takes place in a goblin market. And they're all keeping close hold on their pies there. Here we got our Five of Spells. So again, we're seeing various conflicts, people being turned into frogs. And here's our Five of Visions. And so as a Five of Cups, this is really cool because, this depicts a scene from The Frog Prince, from what I can tell, and the princess and the Frog Prince loses her golden ball in the pond or the well. It's oftentimes a well, but doesn't realize that, the real treasure is the frog, is the prince. And so that's a cool idea for a Five of Cups. Here's our Five of Challenges, or Five of Swords. So this looks like a giant, the giant and Jack and the Beanstalk. And again, and this is just stuff like off the top of my head, but when I think about Jack and the Beanstalk, and you think about the fact that Jack goes and he steals from the giant and then he comes back down, but then as a result the giant comes back down and like destroys everything, and which is a great take on the Five of Challenges. Jack wins, but it's a short-lived win. And then here we have the Five of Boons. And so again, it looks like Hansel and Gretel again, kind of trapped out in the cold. Here's the Six of Spells. And so we have this lovely little dragon here that's just hatched out of its egg. The Six of Visions. I really love this deck. I love the imagery and I love the feel of it. Here's the Six of Challenges. So for the Six of Swords, I guess maybe, taking refuge in the tree is what's being represented here, to get away from the wolves. You're going somewhere to escape difficulties. And then the Six of Boons. Look how sweet this is. This is so lovely. And the idea here is, again, if you're thinking of like a normal Six of Pentacles, they're exchanging warmth here. She's keeping the rabbits warm. The rabbits are keeping her warm. Here's our Seven of Spells. Dwarves kind of attacking a dragon. Our Seven of Visions. So here again, it looks like a vision and a pool of water with lots of different possible future potentials. The Seven of Challenges, we've got some foxes here stealing from the caravan. And the Seven of Boons, all these different doors. Here we have the Eight of Spells. So again, that's our Eight of Wands, and that's lovely. Owls flying towards you, carrying messages. The Eight of Visions. So this is your Eight of Cups, and it looks like women escaping from somewhere, leaving something behind. We've got our Eight of Challenges. So here you're trapped in the thorns. And the Eight of Boons. So again, it looks like spinning here. So this is maybe sort of a Rumpelstiltskin or a 12 Wild Swans, potentially. Maybe 12 Wild Swans, where she has to spin the nettles into shirts. And here's our Nine of Spells. So it looks like she is creating a protective spell around herself from all of the creatures in the forest in the dark. Nine of Visions. So we've got a coin here going into a wishing well. So that's our wish card, of course. And Nine of Challenges. So yeah, being alone in the forest at night and being frightened. Look how this tree is like a character. There's a spider and, you know, somebody who's afraid, and this is just a tree, but the tree looks like something that's maybe coming after him. And then here's our Nine of Boons. And this lovely sort of elf woman. There's a snail shell, so that gives us a little call back to the Nine of Pentacles and the Rider-Waite-Smith, and lovely. Okay, so here's our Ten of Spells. And so again, if we're thinking about the Ten of Wands here, you know, it's these princesses are clearly escaping from something. And so I'm going to have to look in the book to know specifically what it is they're escaping from. But clearly they're burdened by that. Oh my gosh, and we have this beautiful family of unicorns for the Ten of Cups, or Ten of Visions. And then for the Ten of Challenges, we have this old knight. His sword is bent and he's despairing. His armor's rusted. And then the Ten of Boons here. Look how lovely this is. That just feels so Ten of Pentacles. Just this beautiful, warm community scene, you know, full of abundance. And here's our pages. So again, they're child in this deck. So we've got our Child of Spells, which again are wands. Our Child of Visions. So pretty. I love that she's running through the rain. And look at this spider web. I love the artwork of this deck. Here's our Child of Challenges. So again, that's our swords. And our Child of Boons. So that is our Pentacles. And I think there's gender balance. It was a boy, two girls, and then another boy. So that's nice that they have gender balance in the pages. And here's our Seeker of Spells. So this is our knight. Lovely. Our Seeker of Visions. That's a Knight of Cups for sure. And the Seeker of Challenges. So this is a dark knight who might stand in your way as you're trying to go on a quest. And the Seeker of Boons. Oh my gosh, I love this. Here's the Weaver of Spells. So these are the queens. And the Weaver of Visions. So this is lovely. It's like she's turning into a mermaid. Or a mermaid turning into a person. Weaver of Challenges. We've got our sort of Ice Queen here. It's almost like the White Witch in the Chronicles of Narnia. And here's our Weaver of Boons. And if I could be anybody when I grow up, I would be this lady. I love this. And then here we have our Keeper of Spells. So this is a king. Again with fire and dragons. Our Keeper of Visions is a fish. Makes me think of when Arthur turned into a fish in the Once and Future King. Keeper of Challenges. I love this bird skull staff. And here's our Keeper of Boons. And he definitely looks like a King of Pentacles, doesn't he? I love the facial expressions. Oh my god, I love this deck so much. Oh, this is, like I said, this was feeling like the Fairytale deck that I really wanted, and it does feel like the Fairytale deck I really wanted. You know, I've wanted a Fairytale deck, but in addition to being impossible to get because they're both out of print, you know, both the Fairytale Tarot by Baba Studio and the Lisa Hunt Fairytale Tarot, like I've watched lots of flip throughs of those and everything, and you know, they're lovely, but I've never been so driven to have one or the other of them, you know, to really even kind of give it a lot of thought. You know, do I actually want one of these like very difficult to get out of print decks? But this one just feels immediately like the Fairytale deck that I wanted, and it's so beautiful. I'm absolutely in love. And the nice thing about this thin cardstock from Llewellyn is that, of course, it shuffles really beautifully. If you're a riffle shuffler like I am, it's very easy to shuffle. So I'm just going to give this a few shuffles, and then, oops, we'll draw a couple cards and see what we get. So we've got the Eight of Cups, or Eight of Visions, Strength, and the Forge. And I'm just going to take a look in the guidebook, and let's take a look at what it says about the Eight of Visions here. I think Strength and the Forge are in a lot of ways really self-explanatory. But here we say for the Eight of Visions, under the weeping willows runs a sluggish, vaporous stream. Here ghostly wraiths of women who died for love drift in a mesmeric dance. Each is in her own world of sadness and self-pity. They may not be aware of each other, or if they are, they don't care. They are, however, aware of you. They pluck at your sleeve and implore you with their watery eyes to join them in their sorrow. These woeful spirits have no free will anymore, but you do. You can escape their lost and empty fate, though perhaps not on your own. This card speaks of depression and disenchantment with life. Expressive grief is much healthier than quietly retreating into a world that denies all joy as well. It can be hard to begin again when your spirits are so low. Don't surround yourself with pessimistic companions. Seek wise guidance from those who have found their way out of the murk. And then at the bottom we have a meaning at a glance here. Withdrawing from life, extended solitude, the dangers of depression being swamped by grief. A closer look. If you stray into a greenish mist swirling close to the ground, run away with all possible speed. This mist never lifts, and it has a narcotic effect. So that's interesting. You know, it's an interesting take on the Eight of Cups, and it's not entirely similar to the way that I read the Eight of Cups, but I still think that it's a cool take on it. And then I'm going to just take a quick look here. Yeah, this is lovely. Here's the Forge. And here's Strength. Oh, and so this is actually, so Strength. The idea here is that this is Little Red Riding Hood, who has finally managed to, you know, become sort of friends with the wolf. You know, she's managed to sort of exert her will and make peace with the wolf. So that's lovely. So I think this is supposed to be an older Little Red Riding Hood as Strength. I love that. So anyway, you guys, I love this deck. I think it's so beautiful. I just really love the imagery. I can't wait to read the guidebook. and, you know, get the guidebook's take on all these cards, and, you know, where some of them do reference specific fairy tales. I'm interested to know that. And then some of them are just like very sort of fairy tale archetypes. And oh God, I'm still kind of obsessed with that hermit. So yeah, I am really into this. I'm so excited about it. I can't wait to make a lot of use of this. So anyway, again, this is the Forest of Enchantment Tarot. And again, this is by Linnea Weatherstone. And the illustrations are by Marilla Allwood. And I just love it. I'm obsessed. I'm so excited about this deck. Like, it just is in that sweet spot for me of what I would want a Fairytale deck to be. So I'm super, super excited. Anyway, thanks so much for hanging out with me while we took a look at this deck, and have a great one. Bye-bye.